they needed further encouragement and admonition to resist weaknesses of the flesh. For this reason Paul, besides commending the Thessalonians for their faithful endurance 1. 2-10. 2. 14. 3. 6-10 and comforting them with the resurrection hope 4. 13-18, exhorted them to continue following a course approved by God and to do so more fully. 4. 1, 2 The apostle, among other things, counseled them to abstain from fornication 4. 3-8, love one another in fuller measure, work with their hands 4. 9-12, stay awake spiritually 5. 6-10, have regard for those working hard among them, admonish the disorderly, speak consolingly to the depressed souls, support the weak, be long-suffering toward all, and abstain from every form of wickedness 5. 11-22. Background for 2 Thessalonians. The faith of the Christians at Thessalonica was growing exceedingly, their love for one another was increasing, and they were continuing to endure persecution and tribulation faithfully. Therefore, the Apostle Paul, as in his first letter, commended them and encouraged them to continue standing firm. 2-1. 3-12. 2. 13-17. Some in the congregation, however, were wrongly contending that the presence of Jesus Christ was imminent. Possibly even a letter wrongly attributed to Paul was interpreted as indicating that the day of Jehovah is here. 2-2. 1, 2 This may have been why the apostle made a point of the genuineness of his second letter, saying, "Here is my greeting, Paul's, in my own hand, which is a sign in every letter. This is the way I write." 3. 17 Not wanting the brothers to be seduced into accepting erroneous teaching, Paul showed that other events had to precede the coming of Jehovah's day. He wrote, "It will not come a letter to correct a wrong view regarding Christ's presence and to offer counsel on how to treat disorderly persons," written by Paul shortly after his first letter to the Thessalonians. Relief to come at the revelation of Christ 1-12 The Thessalonians are commended for their endurance and faith while experiencing persecutions and distress. Relief will come at Christ's revelation. Then Jesus Christ, accompanied by powerful angels, will destroy those not obeying the good news and will be glorified in connection with his holy ones. Paul prays that the Thessalonians will be counted worthy so that the Lord Jesus' name will be glorified in the man of lawlessness to be revealed before the presence of Christ 1-17 The Thessalonians are admonished not to be unsettled or excited by anio textoi acute muritra longo Thessalonica 1092 unless the apostasy comes first and the man of lawlessness gets revealed. 2. 3. A problem that had already existed earlier in the congregation still needed attention. In his first letter to the Thessalonians, Paul had told them, "We exhort you, brothers, to make it your aim to live quietly and to mind your own business and work with your hands, just as we ordered you, so that you may be walking decently as regards people outside and not be needing anything." 1-4. 10-12 There were those in the congregation who had not taken this admonition to heart. Hence Paul ordered such persons to work with quietness and eat food they had themselves earned, adding, "But if anyone is not obedient to our word through this letter, keep this one marked, stop associating with him, that he may become ashamed. And yet do not be considering him as an enemy, but continue admonishing him as a brother." 2-3. 10-15. Thessalonica Thes Nica. The principal seaport of Macedonia, where Paul established a Christian congregation about the year 50 CE. Now the city is called Thessalonica or Thessaloniki. Picture, Volume 2, p. 749. Originally, a nearby town named Therm, meaning hot spring, was one of the some 26 towns destroyed by Cassander, who then built Thessalonica in 316 or 315 BCE. He named it after his wife, the sister of Alexander the Great. This new city was situated on the W side of the Chalcidice Peninsula, on the Thermacus Sinus now called the Gulf of Salonika, at the junction between the road running into the Danube and the main road, the paved Via Egnatia built by the Romans that extended for hundreds of miles across Macedonia to the Adriatic Sea. Macedonia was divided into 4 districts before the middle of the 2nd century BCE, with Thessalonica at the capital of the second. A few years later, when Macedonia became a Roman province, Thessalonica was made the administrative seat of its provincial government. So, when the Apostle Paul and Silas arrived there, about 120 kilometers 75 MW of Philippi, they found it to be a thriving metropolis of quite some importance. For 3 Sabbaths, Paul preached in Thessalonica's synagogue. As a result, some Jews and a great multitude of Greek proselytes became believers and associated themselves with Paul and Silas. Among them were not a few of the principal women. Acts 17. 1-4 How long Paul remained there is not disclosed, though it was long enough for him and his companion to obtain work so they could support themselves. Although as an apostle Paul had the authority to receive material help from those to whom he ministered spiritual things, he set the example that a person should eat food he himself earns. 1 Co 9. 4-18. 1th2. 9. 2th3. 7-12 This was probably done partly because of the tendency toward idleness that some there had.